In this video, I'm going to try and give you a better idea of how I would remove a structural floor beam or girder beam in a conventionally framed floor. First thing you're going to need to do is do a little planning. Make sure that you don't put your support beams, your temporary support beams or walls, whatever you're going to be using, in your way where you can't do any of the repairs. So don't forget, you can always put the walls next to the beam as long as you can cut it out and install the new beam. And then once the beam is installed, you can remove the walls and then fasten everything off. So you might not be able to nail the joists with the walls in the way or attach them to the girder beam. I'm just kind of throwing this out there. But you would be able to if the wall wasn't there on one side. So you could kind of keep that in mind. You know, you don't have to cover all your bases with positioning the walls or the beams in one place. So if you do put the walls in, make sure that they just are not, the walls or the support beams, that they are not in the way of actually removing the beam and replacing it. Just kind of throwing that out there. Now, the first thing you're going to want to do is remove the connection that is usually going to be toenails driven into the floor joists, through the floor joists into the support beam. So usually going to do that with a sawzall, I would imagine, and a metal blade. That would be what I would use. And you're going to need to cut each one to separate it so that the beam will fall. And you might not want to be prying on this thing. You know, let's say you don't have a sawzall and you set up your support beams. You think, hey, I'm just going to pry this beam out with a pry bar. You know, that might not be the best idea because you could be putting pressure on your support beams here. So that's just throwing that out there also. After you have separated the floor joist from the beam, whatever they use to fasten it, nails or screws or building hardware, I would suggest that you cut sections of the beam out. Simply, I guess you could mark it or just grab a sawzall, chainsaw, whatever you want. Chainsaw might be dangerous under here. And then cut it up into manageable sections too. That's the whole reason for making it easy on yourself to cut the beam out. Now, if you're going to reuse the beam or take it to another job, use it for something else, then obviously you wouldn't be able to do this. But this is about the easiest way to remove the beam that I have found. For this step, I'm going to provide you with two examples. One of the examples would be to remove sections of the beam, and the other example will be to remove a large section of the beam and have it drop. So remember, at this point, you are no longer attached to the joists, and the beams aren't going to be supported by anything once you cut them. So it wouldn't be a bad idea to install some blocks. And this, you could put a jack underneath it if you're planning on lowering it with a jack, but that could create an unstable situation. I would suggest using the blocks. I mean, if you could just imagine having a jack here, and you have a large beam, and the jack's underneath it, and this one here, you're cutting it, it goes to drop, and it knocks the jack over, then you aren't going to be in a good position. I don't recommend just letting this stuff fall to the ground because it could end up damaging the pockets or the building hardware that holds all this stuff in place. I mean, the last thing you want to do is end up trying to repair one thing and then needing to repair 5 or 6 other things because you were in a hurry. So I strongly suggest using the blocks like this, and I will show you in the next section, I will show you what it would be like if we cut out a large section. So use the blocks. Here, you might not need the blocks. You could always work with one section, don't forget. You could always leave the beam, do not cut the nails that are fastening the joist to the beam if you have a small section like this. And then you could take this section out and then this section, and you could use your blocks here and then move your blocks over to this area and then make the cut to separate the floor joist from the beam and then pull it out. So small sections are going to be a lot easier to manage than big sections, but again, just going to take a little planning. So again, you can use the blocks under a large board. You can leave the nails that are holding the beam up for a small section. Small section, I would say less than 2 feet. The nails are going to hold that up most of the time. But don't be surprised to find some of this stuff that it's not nailed either. This isn't, I actually came across a floor one time that there were no nails. Hard to imagine, but there were no nails holding the joist to the beams. Here's the other way. Make sure that you put the blocks at each end of the beam and then cut it near the ends. And then, of course, you're just going to have small pieces to remove. Quite simple. Simple, I should say, sometimes. There's the blocks. You're going to cut it on that side. There's not going to be no need to do anything on this side because it's going to be a small piece. Same thing on the other side. There we have it. Cut here. This is going to be a small piece. It's going to be real manageable to get that out of there. You can simply remove one block at a time to lower the beam. You can always use hydraulic jacks, screw jacks, if you need to jack up the one end, remove a block, lower it, go to the other side, jack up an end, remove one or two more blocks, and work your way down, or use some levers, 2x4, something like that. But you're simply just going to be removing one or two blocks at a time until you have it down to where you can feel comfortable pushing it over, or you just lower it all the way down. When you are done with that, you should be able to pull the side pieces out that are left over, and they should be manageable, should be small enough, and you're done. The next video is going to be on how to install the beam, and you do that by simply reversing this process most of the time. Go to the website for more videos on walls and engineering. I will also have a complete list of the videos in this series along with other videos that I have already made. Video.gregvan.com structural engineering, or go to the gregvan.com website, any one of them, and look for the video box in the upper left-hand corner. Once you get to the video website, click on the structural engineering link and you should be good to go. You should be where you need to be.